What's this about Bitcoin? Likely rejection or smooth sailing? Wait, Elon Musk won't be the richest guy in the world? Now hold on. When is this? January 10th? That's only a couple days away. Jason!
I'm sorry, did you say something? You know I'm right here! Yo, check out this view here! Is that our producer down there? Oh, I think I can see your house from here. Nice.
Dude, the news.
Oh, sorry. All right, guys, let's talk some Bitcoin.
Let's get to it.
In 2020, a crack automation engineer and a manufacturing operations guru met within the confines of the biotech industry. In late 2023, these men promptly escaped from the industry to the financial underground. Today, still wanted by the top biotech headhunters, they survive as traders and investors of fortune. If you want to learn to trade and invest, and if you can find them, maybe you can follow the Tech Trading Titans.
Welcome to our channel, where we receive the timely news updates of crypto and the market in general, with the best technical analysis you can use for your own trading and investments. I'm Andre.
And I'm Jason.
And today we're going to be talking about the hot topic, which is the looming decision about the Bitcoin Spot ETF, approval or denial, by Gary Gensler and our friends at the SEC. Will they approve? Will they deny? What does this mean? Jason, what do you think?
Oh, so what do I think about all this? Well, Andre, if I had a drink for every time I saw a social media posting about these Bitcoin Spot ETF approvals, I don't think I'd be here right now. I'm so sick of hearing this. I can't wait for this decision to come through and be over so we can move on. But anyhow, we got to talk about some Bitcoin first before we can talk about any of that. So let's go hit the charts. All right, we're looking at the weekly time frame of the Bitcoin Liquid Index chart. And before we even start talking about this chart, we need to talk about what a cycle is so you have a general understanding of what I'm going to be talking about. So we're already at the beginning here of the first cycle. And you'll note that there is a beginning and an end to each cycle, which is marked by these green vertical lines. And the end of each cycle actually marks the beginning of the next cycle. In between the two green lines, there's a red vertical line, referred to as the halving event. Now, this event plays a very critical role in the Bitcoin cycle. So let's do a recap on what the Bitcoin halving event is, and actually what is even involved with Bitcoin mining. So Bitcoin miners attempt to solve a complex mathematical problem using supercomputers. And whoever solves the problem actually gets to add the next block in the Bitcoin blockchain. As a reward for that, the miners receive Bitcoin. Now, after every 210,000 blocks are added to the Bitcoin blockchain, the Bitcoin rewards are cut in half. And this leads to less Bitcoin being added to the circulation. And that actually creates a scarcity effect. And that is actually what leads to the parabolic run portion of the cycle. All right, quiz time. Andre, you here?
All right, ready to go.
All right, if you had to guess, based on everything I said so far, and knowing what you know about Bitcoin at this point, how long would you think it would take to add 210,000 blocks to the Bitcoin blockchain?
Well, I would say 4 years.
Ding, ding, ding!
All
Correct,
right.
sir, correct. So now you can see where the 4-year element comes with the 4-year cycles. They are driven by the halving events. All right, so now let's talk about two tools, that's Andre and I, nah, kidding, and one indicator that's going to help guide us through these cycles up to the current cycle. The first tool is called the Fibonacci retracement tool. Yes, Fibonacci, like you learned in school, nature's secret code. This tool allows us to determine where price can retrace to following either an up run or a down run. The next tool we're going to talk about is the supporting trend line. This is used to see where price bounces off and finds support along the run. And finally, the indicator we're going to be talking about is called the pi cycle top indicator. Yes, pi, not like yummy pie, P-I-E, no, P-I, pi. So this indicator includes two moving averages, one being longer than the other. So you have the red line here being the longer moving average, and the green line down here being the shorter moving average. All these together are going to help us get through the run and understand where we can go moving forward. All right, so now let's review the first cycle. Here we are back in 2010. Bitcoin blasting through the door, FBI style of the market space, paving its way into the crypto market. Had a nice big run up here in the beginning, followed by a correction. And as you can see, if you use the Fibonacci retracement tool from the top of the peak here down to the bottom, the price had actually retraced all the way up to the 618 Fibonacci level, as indicated by this white horizontal line. We also tapped the pi cycle top indicator line with the red line here. We did not touch the 786 here. We got pretty close to it, but we just couldn't quite tap it in. So along the way here, as you'll note, we hit this supporting trend line, and once we hit the pi cycle top indicator and the 618 Fibonacci support, we actually retraced a little bit and came back down, and then found support on the supporting trend line and bounced up, and we continued our run up to the halving event. So what's really key here is to focus on the orange circle. That's where all the action is here. In fact, when we talk about each cycle, all the action will be in the orange circles and even the purple circles. So following the halving event, we got our parabolic run all the way up to another peak here, or another top, with a correction. And we finally completed the entirety of the run over here in the purple circle region in 2013. Now, using the pi cycle top indicator, if you had sold Bitcoin when the green moving average crossed over the red moving average, you would have pretty much timed the top perfectly. So that's the power of this tool right here. And we're going to continue to see if this actually works out during the rest of the cycles following this one. All right, let's move on to the second cycle. So at the beginning here, we had our bear phase, or bear market. We came out of it with an inverse head and shoulders pattern, and then we found support along the supporting trend line. And again, let's focus on the orange circle. We retraced our price from the top to the bottom, all the way up to the 618 Fibonacci, and this time we actually hit the 786 Fibonacci level, which coincided with the pi cycle top indicator again. Now, please note that this happened right before the halving event, just like the last cycle. So following the halving event, we had our price go into the parabolic phase, and we continued all the way up to the top to the end over here in 2017. Just like the previous cycle, we saw the green moving average cross over the red moving average for the pi cycle top indicator. And if you had sold here, again, you would have timed the top pretty darn well, and you'd be pretty happy. And now we move on to cycle 3. So we start with our bear market here, came out of it with a cup and handle pattern, and price retraced all the way up to the pi cycle top indicator again, along with the 618 Fibonacci and even the 786 Fibonacci level. So after that, we had a correction, as we've had before, came all the way back down to the supporting trend line, and oops, we had a loss of support, and this was due to COVID-19. And then we were eventually able to regain support around the time of the halving and continue our run all the way up to the top of the end of the cycle, which was over here in 2021. And again, let's look at the purple circle. The purple circle. If you had sold where the green moving average line crossed over the red moving average line for the pi cycle top indicator, you pretty much would have timed the top again. But also note, in this case, we had a very unique end to this cycle. We had a double top. So it was the first time we ever saw this. But in terms of charting, the technical top was the first top here. So that's why I'm covering this one. So that wraps up this cycle now.
So one thing I'd like to point out is that black swan event known as COVID-19 and how the price action actually penetrated the trend line and then recovered afterwards and continued on. So when you're drawing a trend line, it's important to consider if you do have a black swan event, which is very rare, and it is something at the scale of what we saw at the pandemic with COVID-19 and affected the broad market as well as Bitcoin. If you do have this event, it can penetrate the trend line without actually causing the trend line to change. So in this case, you would have kept the same trend line and just allowed the penetration to go through and back and sort of discount the data that was presented by that dip so that you don't change the trend line. And by doing that, you can see that everything still follows all of the cycles we've seen so far.
All right, now let's move on to the current cycle, the fourth cycle. So after having our double top here and going into our bear market, we came out of it with a cup and handle pattern, and we found support along this supporting trend line. Now note that we crossed the 618 Fibonacci level here at about $39,000, and we have not actually touched the 786 yet, which is about $50,000. Currently, the pi cycle top indicator is around 59,500. So if history plays any sort of role here in what we're looking at, which it should because the pi cycle indicator has been 3 for 3 so far, we should expect the price to eventually come up to that level and see rejection and maybe head back towards the trend line at some point before the halving event. So the catalyst for getting there is probably going to require something like the approval of the spot Bitcoin ETFs to make such a move. Until then, we'll probably just continue to hover our price, or if we get rejection, I'll expect us to maybe start coming back down towards the trend line a little sooner rather than later.
So where do we go from here? I think we have 3 different scenarios, and they rank from positive to neutral to negative. And scenario number 1, I think, is that the SEC approves and Bitcoin goes to the moon. Everyone's happy, the market is up, everything is great. I think the second scenario, which is somewhat neutral, is that the SEC approves, but it's a buy the rumor, sell the news event. It shocks the market and Bitcoin comes down to test previous support levels, and then it continues to rise. And of course, we have the last scenario, which would be the worst outcome. And that is the SEC denies the ETF and Bitcoin crashes, shedding all of its recent euphoric rise. Jason, what do you think? What's likely to happen?
I'm just going to take a psychological standpoint on this one here. I know Gary had a rough year last year. He lost a couple court cases, the Grayscale and the XRP Ripple case. He has more institutions surrounding him than ever, wanting their submissions approved for the spot Bitcoin ETF. I know Kathy Woods, she's from ARK Invest, her application for submission is due by January 10th. So this is the one really driving the January 10th date. Mm-hmm. But Gary has been very adamant so far in stating that he wanted to keep things fair by approving multiple submissions at the same time so that no one has an advantage. So I'm just imagining all the pressure that he's getting fed right now from all angles, and it makes scenario 3 a little more difficult to see happening. I mean, anything can certainly occur, of course, but I kind of see scenario 1 and 2 being the main options right now with the higher probability. Hopefully scenario 1 would be the best of all worlds, but as Andre and I have been researching previous ETF approvals of various types in the past, we have seen indications of the buy the rumor, sell the news. So that's definitely not unusual to see. So fingers crossed for scenario 1 or 2, particularly 1, of course. But if he does not approve in this time around, I don't know what's going to happen. It's not going to be easy swimming for him.
That's for sure. So we've already talked about the target we can achieve if we get approval. But what about the neutral and negative scenarios? Where can the price go? Stay tuned for a future video where we discuss where this might go based on that decision. So what do you think? Will the approval happen? Will it get denied? Let us know in the comments below.
Guys, if you find value in this content and you'd like to see more of it, please like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next one.
We'll see you next time.